So, okay guys, today we're gonna go over the top roles that businesses outsource from the Philippines. My team has prepared this for me after interviewing and hiring hundreds of virtual assistants, both for our own team and for our clients. Now, the rates I'm gonna share with you today, these are the direct hire rates that you can pay to hire someone. This is assuming a 30 to 40 hour work week. This does not include any recruitment fees. It does not include healthcare. It's just the rate that you would pay. Now, keep in mind, these are not going to be the rates you see on Upwork, because when VAs are trying to get a job on Upwork, they are putting their freelancer rate. They're assuming they're working 5 hours a week and they're going to charge you a premium for that. So these are full-time rates. When you hire someone for full-time, where you have hour stability, you're paying them a salary, you get better bang for buck, okay? And what we've also done here is we've compared this rate to the three sort of major states in the United States, California, Texas, New York. We've compared it to the local alternatives and we've averaged out a savings. I have not looked at these rates myself. We're gonna go through them and we're going to be discussing common pitfalls of hiring these people, and I'm gonna share with you my thoughts. The rates I'm gonna talk about today are based on offering 30 to 40 hours full-time work, which is very different from the freelancing rates you'll see on Upwork. These rates do not include HMO or healthcare plans, which is a pretty big incentive in the Philippines. We can talk about that another time. This is the first slide, and it looks like these are all sort of sales roles. So it looks like we're ranging from $5 to $7 an hour. And you can see the comparison to the domestic options in the United States. So appointment setter and cold caller, that looks appropriate, but I just want to differentiate two things. So if your business is B2C, it's going to be easier to find appointment setters. What I mean by B2C is like if you're a solar company, if you're a real estate company, you sell directly to the end consumer, it's easier. And the reason why is because if you have the numbers, when the appointment setter calls, there's no gatekeeper. They can usually reach directly to the person you're trying to target. Versus B2B, sometimes if you're trying to sell something to a business, you call, it's a receptionist that picks up or someone else, and you have to try to get past them. These are people we call gatekeepers. And I say this because generally speaking, over the last 2 years with the real estate boom in the United States, like places like Florida, a lot of realtors hired appointment setters just to call homes and just to ask them if people want a free market evaluation. So that worked pretty well. So definitely, I would even say like $4 or $5 an hour would be good. Most Filipinos speak fluent English, and so you're not gonna have any problems there. Where the rate starts to trend up is, at 7, I would even say more. Like I've seen appointment setters for B2B like even $10 or $11 an hour, because when it comes to B2B, it's more about the follow-ups. So you're making maybe 5 to 7 follow-ups before you actually get to speak to the decision maker. But generally speaking, hire someone that has experience working in a call center, that has experience making cold calls, because warm calls is completely different. Someone needs that grit to be able to pound out 150 cold calls a day. And that's 150 attempts, not connected ones, right? Yeah, and again, so for B2B, the appointment setter or cold caller need to have a lot more experience, generally speaking, just business acumen, maturity, life experience, to be able to field a larger variety of kind of possibilities in that conversation. Whereas B2C, you're typically just reading a script. Next, we have sales representative. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. We work with some larger clients. They have a sales team. And so they have a sales director or marketing director that sets a strategy. And sales representative, it's almost like kind of outbound or inbound sales, where you're more like a relationship manager at that point, right? Like maybe you're nurturing leads over a longer period of time. And I'm surprised they didn't put account manager here, but that would be something similar to that. So generally speaking, I look at appointment setter and cold caller as more for small business and a sales rep for larger businesses. So just, when you're looking for your own VA, just make sure you're picking a title that's suitable so that you can attract the right candidates. Lead generation specialist, this definitely is screams B2B to me. What's very popular now is, we use Apollo Premium or LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and having someone to go into those tools and be able to critically think about who to target. Now, 4 to 6, this is definitely low. I disagree with this. You can probably find someone that says they can do that, but to have the business acumen and sort of the sales proficiency to think about, hey, which niche should I target? Which industry? How do I target my message? I don't really see it. Now, if you have the script where it's like, hey, just go on Sales Navigator and bomb these people with these requests, ask them if they want a $100 Amazon gift card or whatever, that could work. But let's be honest, right? Like those type of outreach methods never really work. Telemarketer, here, I don't think it will apply to most of you listening. This is like if you run, the call center department department at Verizon or AT&T, or you work for the government, you're trying to poll people. This typically is like, I mean, I feel this rate 4 to 6.5 is misrepresented because typically only large call center companies will do this for you. They're called BPOs. It stands for business process outsourcing. And typically you got a higher minimum of like 20 seats. And they're about $15 to $18 per seat because it usually comes with a computer. It comes with, secured rooms and everything like that. And they also train and manage everyone. Of course, the people they hire don't even get $4 an hour, which is why we see so many people moving from BPO to becoming their own virtual assistant. So yeah, but either way, let's move on. I think we can go next slide here. Okay, this is fun. So this next slide, I guess we're looking at all the marketing roles, content creation. So graphic designer, social media manager, video editor, content writer, and copywriter. So let's get this out of the way right away. I feel bad for the whole generation of content writers and copywriters, but they're pretty much out of business with ChatGPT and kind of advanced AI tools that are coming out. And yes, before you're like, oh, but there are people who can write better. No, they can't. For most business use, GPT would be more than enough. It can write very creatively. I think once I asked a GPT to write The Godfather 4, like the screenplay for it, and it did it, and it was actually pretty profound. And that was like the early version. It's not even the advanced reasoning. So take these two out, take out content writer and copywriter. Let's look at video editor, social media manager, and graphic designer. So first of all, I don't think you should hire a graphic designer because any good video editor should be able to play in Canva. And because if they were a good video editor, it means they were used to making thumbnails. And thumbnails are probably like 50% of the game for YouTube. And the other 50% is like the title, right? And the hook. So a video editor who can play in Canva, which is pretty intuitive, should be able to do graphic designing. The most popular editing programs, of course, Adobe Premiere and DaVinci Resolve. Here is the biggest thing when you're hiring a video editor to watch out for. Make sure they have like at least 24 gigs of RAM on their computer. So we've made the mistake before of hiring video editors to find out they have like a small MacBook that's running, even like 16 gigs of RAM is pushing it depending on some devices. So make sure to actually invest it as a video editor. Now 5 to 6.5, I should mention by the way, all these rates do not include healthcare, do not include recruitment fees. That's okay. The best video editors with the proven portfolios of working on like big social media channels where they say like, hey, I made this and I got a bunch of views, whether it's on YouTube or whatever, they will be able to command more wages. Don't be confused by the rates that you see on Upwork. They're always higher because those video editors and freelancers, they're trying to get paid more like a contractor freelancer basis. Whereas the rates I'm showing you here are for full-time jobs. So back to social media manager. Social media, I think almost all businesses, 95% of businesses do it wrong. The idea is you're not just posting like a picture on Instagram and then you're done. You actually have to engage in the comment section. You have to follow your competitors, follow your target avatars, your target customers, and engage with them in the comments, writing the captions, scheduling the posts. My team, we post across TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. And so our social media manager, Jessica, she's actually quite busy because it's not really just posting. You have to research what to post, when to post, and how to engage with the audience. So this actually, I would say, this rate that my team gave me, it looks to be a little bit low, to be honest, depending on the caliber of people you're finding. Okay, so this is interesting. Admin assistant, executive assistant, logistics, real estate, e-commerce. So right off the bat, I would say, all of these roles effectively are sort of admin-based, coordination-based, organization, communication-based. So you're hiring for that skill set, whether it's a real estate assistant or trucking and logistics or e-commerce. Those are just, or legal assistant. That's just sort of like the color, but it's not the main thing. You know what I mean? It's like it's not the main course, right? It's like the drink that you have with your meal. Sorry for the bad analogy. Certainly, you can look for people with the skill set of administration, coordination, or whatever for your industry, but I wouldn't get too hung up. Like if you put in your job description, I'm looking for a logistics associate, you might not get enough applicants. I would generally just look for what I call GVA, General Virtual Assistant, and look for someone with good skill set who can be trained. So yeah, this looks about right. 5 to 7 for admin assistant. You're looking for someone with a college degree, maybe 3 to 5 years of work experience. That's what we look for. Fluent in English, of course. It used to matter more that they can write really well. It doesn't matter as much now with ChatGPT, we find. But they generally should be a pretty good problem solver solver, and they have to be fast and accurate as well. Executive assistant, I think it can be low depending on what we're talking about, right? Like we have some large clients where our EAs are serving the CFOs. They have like 12, 15 years of EA experience for Fortune 5,000 companies. At that point, I can assure you they can command much higher salary. You would probably still be looking at 50% savings compared to California, Texas, or New York. But that's about it. Yeah, so I would basically not focus so much on the industry so much. A lot of times we work with clients that are like, hey, I need somebody, I run a design shop, I'm an architect, and I need someone who can do this specific thing. Or like in solar, like does somebody have Aurora experience? But if you hire a smart person, you can train them in a week. It's not a big deal. But what you really want is having a lot of applicants and be able to do as many interviews as possible. For our clients, sometimes we're doing like, 10 or 15 interviews with different candidates. And that's really how you're going to get better results. It's not by trying to get it right away, but just doing a lot of interviews. So yeah, e-commerce specialist for all the e-commerce people watching this. I would be surprised you need help with this video because e-commerce tends to be one of the earliest industries to outsource during the pandemic because they couldn't find people to work locally. And so most of the founders and business owners I know running an e-commerce store, they've already got this figured out. Okay, SEO analyst, web developer, programmer. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Like the Philippines does not appear to be great for these type of roles, right? Like anything super technical, like the Philippines is great for administration, for customer service, for certain kind of sales, for relationship-based sales. And you only need to look at, for example, the largest companies, Nike and Adidas, they outsource their customer service to the Philippines. There's big software companies that outsource their sales to the Philippines, even like ClickUp, for example, or QuickBooks. These guys run their entire team from the Philippines. So when you hire from that pool, you're getting people who are well-trained. But for web developer, our own developer Ryan's gonna hate me for saying this, but it's hard to find someone. And then when you do, that rate seems fine just because typically they have a tough time finding the right job. But other regions like Pakistan or India or even Eastern Europe in some cases seem to be more proficient in this front. SEO analyst, listen, if you want to start SEO, do not hire a freelancer and to do it because you won't, unless you know a lot about SEO and you can come up with the strategy, you're just going to be like, you're not even going to know what's going on. Like you won't be able to validate this person's work. So with SEO, we recommend, just hiring an agency with a good track record in your industry. They can actually say, hey, I've helped these businesses who are similar to yours achieve proven rankings and here's a report to prove it. But yeah, I wouldn't, I certainly wouldn't try to hire your own freelancer. Same thing with web development. We have a lot of entrepreneurs, they're like, I want to build a website, but you don't want to spend the time of hiring someone full-time, training them to go through that. Just pay an agency. Like it's going to save you all the time of interviewing, looking on Upwork or online jobs. And it's just gonna be much better. Same thing with programmer. I don't think, if you want to, hey, I need to build something Ruby on Rails, I don't know if this presentation is for you. So technical roles, I would rate Philippines like, I don't know, maybe 3 out of 5. Right? I wouldn't go here first. Okay, so there's we started with the sales roles. I guess they bifurcated it and they put it here, but account manager, client success manager. This is one of the biggest opportunities, I think, for any business. Because even if you run like a trades business or home improvement business, like let's say you just fix people's kitchens, just having somebody keep track of all the work that you've ever done for every customer, following up with that customer 6 months, 3 months after the job, 6 months after the job and say, hey, how do you like your countertop? Do you like it? Here's a bottle of wine for working with us. Thank you so much. And I hope your son kind of aces his exam or wins the baseball championships, junior leagues, whatever. Someone to maintain that relationship is really, really important, especially in these referral heavy businesses, business networks. And it's one thing that we don't see a lot of business owners do. They kind of just expect that they do it all. They're maintaining all the relationships themselves. But, snap a finger, it's been like 6 months and they haven't even talked to their last customer, right? So it's a missed opportunity. Everyone's always got this hunter mindset of like, hey, I'm going to go get new clients. But no one thinks about, hey, how do I just kind of be a farmer and nurture the relationships I already have. When you see big software companies, SaaS companies, or service companies out of Silicon Valley, they're hiring client success managers from the Philippines. And also because I think, this is my theory, right? For whoever's still watching here. Filipinos are, as a diaspora of people, everyone has a loose connection to America or say Canada or Australia, because someone in their family probably lives in those areas. So versus like, let's say you outsource somebody from India or Pakistan, they might not really know anybody in their family or close relatives were friends that work in those countries. But Filipinos are so connected to the culture of kind of Western business culture, Western culture in general, that I think this is one of the reasons why they excel in customer service roles or sales roles or relationship management roles, just because they're more relatable, right? Most of the customers we know in North America know Filipinos in their life, like locally. And so just having someone hired from overseas, it's a lot easier. So this is a huge opportunity. And looking at the rates, 7 to 9, again, yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, obviously there's huge nuance to these roles. It depends on, are you hiring one person or a team? Is it strategy? How long is your sales cycle? What's the product worth? But generally, yeah, you can find someone pretty capable and reliable for $7 to $9 an hour with really solid work experience and a track record of achieving things. Next one, bookkeeper, accountant, CPA. I would agree with the range here. I think for a bookkeeper, you can get probably even $4 or $5 an hour. Now, here's where I want to really comment on this, because my background's in corporate finance. And I've had a hell of a time hiring for my own finance team. When you hire a bookkeeper, you're going to see a lot of CVs that say they know bookkeeping, that they worked for this company or that company, but they probably don't know like accounting fundamentals, like debits and credits, which means that they're going to be able to go into your QuickBooks or your Xero and they're going to be able to click buttons, and they might even click them right, but they won't understand the impact of those transactions that they're labeling. They certainly won't understand how a journal entry works. So if at the end of the year, your accountant comes in, it's more than likely that there's going to be a bunch of mistakes. And we've learned this the hard way many times. So now when we're working with clients, the first thing I ask is like, do you have a bookkeeping system set up? Because if you do, we can hire you a bookkeeper if there's SOPs, and they can come in and they can, just operate your books, right? Label expenses, print statements, and get you some numbers and send invoices, right? Do payroll. But if you don't have that and you're trying to set one up from scratch, I strongly recommend paying the premium of either using a local firm, or you could hire certified public accountants and accountants from the Philippines. You're going to pay much more, but you're going to get somebody who actually understands how the sausage is made, which is what you need for accounting. So don't just hire someone who can click buttons. My tip for you when you interview is actually ask them an accounting question. If you don't know one, get GPT to do it. My favorite is like, I bought a used car for $7,000. It has a salvage value in 5 years of $2,000. I want to sell it on year 3. Give me the journal entry. So for those of you listening who's not familiar with accounting, but see how important it is to actually understand how that works, because otherwise you're just going to get someone in your business labeling stuff, clicking stuff, and you're going to find a big mess in the end. Most small businesses need bookkeepers, but they need the expertise of an accountant. And funny enough, when we work with bigger clients that have entire corporate finance teams, they tend to only hire accountants and CPAs because they have the budget to, but they have systems that are so well built that they could just hire a bookkeeper and frankly get away with it because the training is good, right? I did my finance degree, I did my CFA. I feel bad for all my finance and accounting friends, because when you look at the saving percentage, this is one of the biggest areas where domestic talent is losing out. Like, I don't know if there's going to be local bookkeepers in 5 years, unless your business is still running paper checks and got to go to the bank and stuff like that. If you don't have to do that, optimizing this part of your business really just makes a lot of sense. And let's be honest, accountants overcharge anyway. This is interesting. This is like a weird category of roles. Paralegal. Yeah, so like what's interesting is we have actually quite a few law firm clients. They hire legal assistants, and in some cases paralegals. Obviously you got to look at your local, state, and provincial regulation and laws. But this is one of those things where I'm saying that you're really hiring someone of a certain capability, say attention detail, communication, written communication, some background in law is just sort of the flavor on top. So if you are running like a business, a law firm that helps companies do incorporation papers, like most of that is pretty cookie cutter. So hiring a paralegal or legal assistant from the Philippines who actually went to law school or studying for law school, that's pretty advantageous. From what I've heard, the legal system in the Philippines is actually quite similar to North America in the fact that it is common law. So don't ask me more questions about that. I'm not a lawyer. This isn't legal advice. But I guess here all my team might be trying to show is that there are some higher level, mid-level roles that you can get for your business. I would say the rate could be even a little bit higher depending on how much experience that person has and how important it is that role is for your business. So for example, like a paralegal, I've heard they're big money makers for a law firm because most of the time, they have a high billable hour, but the work that they're producing is pretty cookie cutter, right? Like a shareholders agreement or, incorporation doc, articles and stuff like that, minute books. Just something to keep in mind. General manager, I'm not going to comment on this. I don't know what my team was thinking when they put this here. I certainly wouldn't hire a general manager for the business. Yeah, so sorry, not sure what that's about. Project manager, project coordinator. This is great. Again, if you're a trades company and, we hire project managers for our solar companies or HVAC companies, there's a lot of coordination involved, right? You have contractors on site doing jobs. You have the salespeople, sales contractors. Forgot what you call them in the States. But yeah, you have salespeople, you have financing, you have a lot of things that need to go right before you can do like a $30,000 job, like on a roof, putting solar panels up. And so having a project manager who has experience in your industry is quite good. I would definitely say it's probably on the higher end of that 6 to 8.5. Like 6, you'd be getting a project coordinator. And the only difference between a coordinator and a manager, in my experience, is just experience. Yeah, so we left this one for last, I guess, because it's probably going to apply to the least of you. But if you happen to run a managed IT services company, then yeah, IT help desk in the Philippines is fine. Like I said, even though that type of development work, like being like a PHP developer, that sort of making an app type development is not that prevalent in the Philippines. We have Microsoft, IBM, like all these big companies, Accenture, that run help desk, that run managed IT and cybersecurity services out of the Philippines. I think, comparatively, the rates will be a bit more expensive than India, for example. But yeah, you can certainly find talent there. We work with a large managed IT service company in Western Canada, and they are quite happy with the people that they've hired from the Philippines. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that gives you an idea of what you can expect when you hire someone from the Philippines. Of course, the rates are going to range, right? It depends on the candidate, depends on what you're looking for, but that'll give you a start. If you still need help hiring, give us a shout.